Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Garbage Time Takes. Unfortunately, we're a two-man crew here today. It's going to be me, Derek, and Dennis joining us today. Dennis, say hello to the people.
Hello, people. It's good to be back here. Unfortunately, we are missing our good friend Bobby Epler. Derek, what is going on? I think we've got some night shifts going on. I think we have, some 12-hour, 24-hour shifts at the hospital, and things are just, you know, quite busy for our good friend Bobby right now. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, for Bob, unfortunately, the scenes are just kind of tough right now. Just kind of tough
It
right now.
does
Uh,
seem a bit tough.
yeah, you hate to see it. Tough. The night shift never fun. Um, you know, Bob Seger out there working on the night moves, but Bob Epler's out there working on the night shift. It's just
Oh,
it's
what a song! What a
it's
song!
it's a hard knocks life out there for Bob. So hopefully when we get him back next week, he'll be well rested after his grueling night shift week. Although he told me, I remember the one day that sometimes they let him off the night shift a little early, and so
I see. I see. Yeah, no,
because there's
that's always a benefit of that.
the one day I was talking to him on Discord and he's like, "Yeah, I've got the night shift tonight." And I was like, "What are you doing talking to me and not sleeping?" He's like, "Well, sometimes I get out a little early and don't have to sleep the entire, you know, daylight hours away." So, we'll see. Hoping Bob can get out early.
Well, here's the thing about, remote work is that, you get let out early because you can just be done when you're done. And, nobody's going to stop.
that's true words
I
have
hope
never been
Bobby listens
spoken.
to this. He's gonna have an aneurysm.
I mean,
Can't wait to get the thoughts on that next week. But
Dennis,
no, I,
I've got to say, Dennis, you are a master at just finding yourself into very convenient positions. I mean, we got, the Holling Scholarship paying for you to play at St. Andrews. We've got Villanova with,
okay, no. We're crossing
absolute,
things up here. The
absolute.
Hollings did not pay me for me to go to Scotland. That was not part of the deal. But
That's right.
I see the point.
They just paid for you to, go to Buffalo Wild Wings every week and slack out on class and pay for your
Okay,
golf
I
at
didn't skip
Riverwood
classes
Golf
either.
Resort.
And that could have been, the financial situation could have been more accommodating to Riverwood based on the Holling scholarship.
Uh-huh,
That's a
uh-huh.
fair statement.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean,
I don't
not
think they were financing it directly, but
they were financing all right. Not to mention Dennis, not to mention Villanova Cakewalk Masters. I mean, just no sweat, no stress, just vibing, nothing but positive vibes and happiness out at the Villanova Masters program. And then now you're working a nice cushy remote job where you can take weekend trips to Milwaukee, go see the Reds play on a Friday evening. Just Dennis is just
oh
he's
man.
figured out life. He's figured out life.
Well, I don't know if this is the transition or not, but man, I hope to see the Reds playing at home against Milwaukee on a weekend here, in a couple of months. That's what I would like to
I
see.
mean, by all means, we can
Actually,
transition into it, Dennis.
Actually, though, I wouldn't like to see that because the one team in Major League Baseball that has our number more than any other this season is the Milwaukee Brewers. We just can't beat them. We just can't beat them, and I think it's just because the pitching is too good, to be quite frank. And as exciting and young and good as our offense is, uh, I don't think it's at the experience. I don't think it's experienced enough to handle some of the starting pitching that they're able to throw out there on
I mean,
through
Dennis,
a 3 game series.
Corbin Burns, Brandon Woodruff, Freddie Peralta, 3 game
Yeah,
series,
we just
just
can't
cooked,
win. We just
just
can't win
cooked.
2 of those games.
That's
We
it's
can barely win one.
Yeah, tough scenes, but I mean, yeah, we can transition right into it, Dennis. The Reds and the Cubs currently both tied at 2.5 back of the Brewers, who are playing tonight in LA. A loss to LA, who's on at least a 10-game win streak, if not a couple games more. I'm pretty sure they're like 14-2 since the trade deadline. Absolutely absurd numbers, pulling away with the NL West. Um, so if they were to lose to the Dodgers tonight, both the Cubs and Reds would move up to only 2 back of Milwaukee. Chicago would be 1
That's
behind in
correct.
the loss column. Cincinnati 2 behind in the loss column. Dennis, the race is getting interesting, and we have put skin on the line, Dennis. We've put skin on the
We,
line. And unfortunately, Bob is not here
I
to
know, I know. This is
to
brilliant.
live the banter live. But Dennis, how about you go ahead and explain to the people the wager that was placed earlier this week? Of course, with Bob's incitement.
Oh, correct, correct. And first of all, I just looked into it. It is a 10-game win streak currently for the LA Dodgers. And as you said, it's catapulted them um, far ahead in the NL West standings. Yes, so this was when this last Sunday. Correct me if I'm wrong, Derek. Just discussing some baseball, chatting it up, and Derek made a comment along the lines of the Chicago Cubs will be in the lead in the NL Central and sole place possession, excuse me, of first place in the NL Central by August 27th. Very specifically, and that I believe Derek was the reasoning behind that is the beginning of the series with the Brewers, the Milwaukee
Correct.
Brewers.
Correct.
And is that at Wrigley or Wrigley South or Wrigley North? Sorry,
Yeah. I mean, true. Either way you shake it, the game is being played at Wrigley.
it's played at Wrigley, right? Yeah,
I
exactly. So
I
it doesn't really
believe
matter.
I believe that game is being played at Wrigley Field, the federal landmark that is Wrigley Field, and I am correct.
Nah, the Federal.
I mean, don't sleep on the federal landmark, Dennis. Come on, don't sleep. But yes, we'll be starting up a 3-game series with the Milwaukee Brewers starting August 28th. And I have felt, and Dennis, maybe you felt the same, that the Brewers have been playing some really soft competition and absolutely skating by at with the skin of their teeth, walking off the Rockies, somehow getting a walk off on David Bednar, just absolute lunacy that the Brewers have somehow game in game out managed to find themselves still atop of the division, pulling games truly out of their arse. And so, with that in mind, and the Cubs getting through a gauntlet of taking 2 out of 3 from Atlanta, 2 out of 3 from Toronto. Um, I mean, it all really started when we took three out of 4 from Cincinnati, and just gone through the absolute gauntlet. And with the White Sox,
It did.
Royals, Tigers, and Pirates coming up, I sue me for being confident in my team that they would find a way to make up a 2.5 game deficit to Milwaukee. And, so far, mixed results. We split with the White Sox, had an absolutely awesome walk-off homer 2 nights ago now by Christopher Morel. And when you make progress on an off day, Dennis, you know you're in good shape. And it doesn't get much easier for Milwaukee. I believe they have either a 3 or 4 game set with the Rangers. Um, who else do they got, Dennis?
Yeah. Who else do they have? Yes, I believe they play the Rangers, and I'll admit it's a tough schedule,
Uh,
and the Chicago Cubs schedule is much less difficult
Correct. Yeah, the Brewers
over
have three.
the next little stretch here.
The Brewers have 3 with the Rangers, 2 with the Twins, which are probably going to be. The Twins are Dookie Stain. Then they've got 3 with the Padres, who have sort of started hitting their stride a little bit,
Yep,
Dennis. And after that 3 game
correct.
series with the Padres, they'll square off with the Cubs. So we'll see what happens. I'm very interested to see what happens with the Texas Rangers series. If there's a 3 game sweep of the Milwaukee Brewers by the Texas Rangers, Dennis, and the Brewers have at that point would have lost 6 in a row, uh, it's hard not to think that the Cubs would at least enter the Pirates series tied for the division lead.
Yeah, and that's quite possible. And what I was going to say is, I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe the Chicago Cubs were 3 or 3.5 back on Sunday when we made that wager. And my line of thinking was, sure, the Chicago Cubs, they're a hot team right now. They have a bit of a soft schedule coming up, especially if you compare it with the Brewers schedule. But 3.5, mention the meddling Cincinnati Reds, Derek, not to mention the meddling Cincinnati Reds, who were at that point tied and still are tied
They are.
with the Chicago Cubs and could, in theory, be in sole possession of the NL Central themselves. I felt like it was a good bet by August 27th, by the deadline that was being put forth. I mean, I had the mathematical advantage by
You
three or
did.
three and a half games
You
as it
did.
was. And I understand the schedule differences, but just as teams can heat up, they can cool off, just as I've seen with my Cincinnati Reds. And all it would take would be the Chicago Cubs to cool off just a little bit and the Milwaukee Brewers to squeak by a couple of games for them to hold a half 1 game lead at the very least in the NL Central. And so that's why I made the wager. And we'll see how it shakes out. I think there's quite a bit obviously to be decided, but to be decided is the stakes, Derek. The
Uh,
stakes have been made, and in a matter of would be 2 weeks.
mm-hmm.
2 weeks from now would be the first podcast date in which it would be in effect.
Correct.
We would have to sport
Yes, you would.
opposite
Yep.
merch.
Yep. You would have to wear a Cubs shirt on the podcast every week for the rest of the season. Uh, if the Cubs find themselves in first place by August 27th, and I would have to wear a red shirt for every podcast every week of the rest of the season, of which there are many weeks left of the regular season, mind you. If the
Many, many,
Cubs
many.
if the Cubs are not in first place uh, by August 27th, I don't think we
Now, Derek,
Yes,
go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I don't think we specified whether the Cubs had to be in sole possession of first place or not. Did we? I'm pretty sure I just said as long as the Cubs are in first place.
We didn't say sole possession.
We did not say sole possession. So that's I get a little bit of a mathematical favor there.
You get a slight leeway there.
I do. I do.
Sure. Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, and then the only way that either of us, because Dennis, in my mind, I was thinking this would also run through the playoffs. I don't know if that's how you were thinking it as well. Um, because I had mentioned that the only way that you could remove the shirt early is if your team finishes the season in first place or wins a playoff series, and that's the only way that you could break the snide. I don't know how you perceived it, but we can
No, that
straighten
works
that out now.
for me. Yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay.
I,
Mm-hmm.
I I'm good with that. I'm good with that. And so therefore, if I were to lose the bet, you're saying if the Reds end up either winning the division or winning a playoff series, I can then cease to wear the Chicago
Correct.
Cubs shirt.
Correct. But you might wear it so often you might find you actually kind of enjoy it, Dennis. Who know? Who knows? Who
Yeah. Now,
knows?
now here's the question though, Derek. Do you own a Cincinnati Red shirt?
No, I would have to purchase one.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so there is a bit of financial incentive on the
there
line.
is there is financial incentive.
Derek, I'm going to be. I mean, I'm not planning on this being a problem in the first place. However, I would be in a bit of a conundrum because option A would be buy a Chicago Cubs shirt, as you would find yourself in that position with the Reds.
Correct. Correct.
Option two would be wear, and if I can find it, a shirt that I bought in 2017 from the great city of Chicago right after the World Series,
That's right. I remember that
uh,
shirt, Dennis.
right after the World Series victory, and I had a um, bit of excitement and respect for the city of Chicago at that time, especially supporting my boy Kyle Schwarber, who was a big part
Correct.
of the World
Correct.
Series run that year, and obviously Aroldis, who I liked. So I did have a bit of an affinity for that Chicago Cubs team, and I bought merch while I was there. However, that thing is going to be pretty small at this point, and also pretty worn. And so that could be option B. We could just be saving the finances, but with Hollings backing me, maybe I can
Correct. I
afford to
mean,
just
I
go
mean,
buy a new shirt.
I mean, Hollings backed you in the purchase of the shirt to begin with. I'm
Yeah.
sure they. I'm sure they wouldn't mind financing another one. Uh,
In high school, yeah, yep,
yeah.
yep.
I mean, it could have been worse, Dennis. We could have agreed that both one of us would have to wear a St. Louis Cardinals shirt. So I think this is
Oh no,
the lesser of the evils, in sporting. I wouldn't. I wouldn't necessarily call the Cubs and Reds not rivals, but I wouldn't call them rivals either. It's sort of that middle ground where if the Reds are successful, I'm kind of jealous, but outside of that, we're sort of like neutral with each other. I think that feeling is shared.
Yeah, it is. I mean, within the division, the Cubs probably bother me the least. It's
Correct.
actually close, ironically, with the Brewers. I get annoyed that they're so successful, but it's definitely the Cardinals and the Pirates that I hate the most.
Yeah.
As a Reds fan.
Yeah, and for me it's the Cardinals and the Brewers. So
Yep.
fortunately I don't think I could ever wear a Cardinals shirt, Dennis. I would have to burn my
That would be
skin.
that would be really painful. That would be incredibly
The
painful. I remember when me and my brother were gallivanting through the during that Reds Brewers series up there. That's we heard it from Brewers fan after Brewers fan that we talked to while we were up there. Man, I'm excited that it's you guys in this race because at that time,
yeah.
especially, the Cubs were also pretty far back in the race. And they're like, I'm just happy it's not the Cardinals. I'm just happy it's not the Cardinals. Just happy it's not the Cardinals. And I was
Yes.
like, you know what? I can respect that. At least we're on
Mhm.
the same page on that one.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm on the same page with the Reds. They are the team easily that bothers me the least in the division by far.
We
Um
love to hear that. We love to hear that. A little friendly banter here. I'm sure
correct.
Bobby would be disappointed to hear that this is going so peacefully. But
I'm sure he is. I'm sure he thought there were gonna be fists flying, bones being thrown,
oh yeah, he's gonna be disappointed.
jabs being traded, but there's nothing wrong with a little bit of healthy, friendly competition. You do it with Shane all the time, the Skyline Chili Bets. It's there nothing but some good fun between two friends that both hope their teams are successful. But Dennis, you did seem to be running a little bit on the warmer side when I was sending those messages Sunday night. I could tell by the tone of your message. You're like, Derek is full of crap. The Cubs are crap, and I'm gonna win this bet with ease. I got that sense, Dennis.
Well,
Was I misinterpreting the situation?
I was running a little bit sat here and told you that it wasn't a little bit of frustration at the Cincinnati Reds for the recent performance. And maybe I can get into that next, but the frustration there. Maybe did I take it out on the Chicago Cubs organization? Yeah, maybe. I mean, so who's for me to say? But and subsequently add Derek Rezio. Maybe, but I also thought that in that particular case, I had the mathematical advantage, and I was willing to take that risk. We'll see how it pans out. I certainly see where Derek is coming from on that argument. For the Chicago Cubs, and I respect him back in his team, but in that moment, a little bit heated at the
Yeah,
Cincinnati
you were
Reds for
yeah
being dumb.
yeah you were in a sort of like a glass case of emotions. The Reds were wetting the bed. The Cubs were taking care of business. Yeah, because I think that's what set you off. Is I said maybe the Reds should take care of the Pirates or something like that.
Yes, you did. That's exactly what you did.
That's what it was. I said maybe the Reds should take care. Yeah, because that's what it was. I was making all these claims, and I was like, oh, because it was the Marlins Yankees game that set us off, Dennis. It was the Marlins
Yes,
Yankees game,
that's right.
the Yankees choking against the Marlins, and you were already upset. And I was like, yeah, I'm also kind of upset, but also now I get an extra category in my fantasy matchup. You're like, Derek, you should care about this too, because the Marlins are hot on our arse for the wild card now. And I think what set you off is when I said, Dennis, my eyes are on
You
the
said
division, not the wild card. And then you were
yes,
like, okay,
and I
buddy.
said, look at this schmo out here. Oh, just absolutely on a different page in terms of where he's expecting his team to finish, even though they're in the exact same spot in the
Correct.
standings.
Correct.
uh, Maybe a little bit of frustration at the fact that it felt as if the Cincinnati Reds were heading for a wild card spot, if anything, opposed to the division. And Dirk just comes out with the confident remarks about winning the division, and that definitely was the lead up
That
that
was
that
that was
ended up
it.
setting me.
That was it. Yeah, it
Yep.
was a combination of. Did you guys win that game against the Pirates? I don't.
So
I
here's
mean,
what happened, and
was
and
that the doubleheader
it
day
felt
that you
like
split? Yeah.
yes, it's the doubleheader day that we split, and we lost game one Friday. We won the game on Friday barely, and then Saturday's game was postponed to Sunday afternoon, and We lost that first game, which we shouldn't have lost, but we lost that first game on Sunday, and we were messaging in between those games. So
Correct.
that was before we won the second game on Sunday. But
Correct. I was hoping
at
for the
that point,
double
I was
save
I
from
was
David
frustrated.
Bednar. Yeah, I was hoping for the double
Yeah.
save from David Bednar.
But I tell you what, Derek, I know we won that series. We won that series 2-1. It felt like we lost the series.
Yeah.
That's just how it felt going away, getting out of there with only two wins, and they were close wins. And it's what we needed to do. We needed to take 2 out of 3 at the very least, and so it really wasn't a disappointing result. But coming away Sunday night, it felt like we lost that
Yeah,
series,
that's how it always feels.
and for whatever reason.
That's how it always feels when you lose the third game of the series. Like I would much rather go win lose win than win win lose cuz there's nothing worse than dropping that third game of the series, and at least for the Cubs anyway, we typically drop our third game of the series in unceremonious fashion when David Ross rolls out the B team. And just practically gives up
Yep.
before the game even starts. At least for you, you won the nightcap of the doubleheader, so at least you got to come away, with the win lose win feeling. Because I don't know, there's always something different about ending the series with a win than a loss, even if you win the series as a whole. At least for me, anyway.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And then, just to continue on, since then we did the same thing. So we only had 2 games so far this week on Tuesday and Wednesday. We lost that first one to the Guardians, which was just completely unnecessary. And then we come back and we win last night. So we split that series as well. But on the right side of things, and now we had in bringing the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, That's gonna be a big series. I'm expecting might have to lay some lumber on a Vladdy Jr. home run. Might have to. I don't,
Oh,
at
oh no.
at some point, I don't know who your starters are for the next 3 days. But we both know, Dennis, that your starters can struggle at times to keep the ball in the ballpark. And Vladdy Jr. in Great American Ballpark, Dennis, sounds like a recipe for a tanker too.
Well, here's the thing, Derek. We got TBD tomorrow, so that could be dangerous because that's going to be probably bullpen day or some dude from AAA that we haven't brought up yet.
Yikes!
Saturday is going to be our good friend Brandon Williamson. And then Sunday, get this, Derek.
I
Sunday,
saw
the
Hunter Green's
return, the
coming
return of
back.
Hunter Green,
Yeah, I
the
saw
return of
that.
Hunter Green to the mound. Uh,
Home run
you know,
server extraordinaire, Hunter Green.
and it'll be a little bit of a. I mean, this is where to dig into it a little bit more. This is where the trade deadline strategy of Nick Krall and the front office of the Cincinnati Reds organization is going to either work or it's not going to work, because I'm truly convinced that part of the equation that was baked into essentially staying pat at the deadline, no offense to Sam Mole, was
Hunter Green is basically a trade
we
deadline
have
acquisition.
Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, and I'm sorry, I'm blanking on somebody else, but mostly Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo, who are going to be coming back from injury in the month of August. And so if those guys provide the boost to the rotation that we so desperately need, then it's as if we made a trade in the first place. Like it is an accusation. So maybe that'll pay off. Maybe it won't. I don't necessarily have tons of faith that that plan will pay off, but I see where they're coming from. And as I've said many times, I'm also happy that they didn't overpay and sell the farm for a starting pitcher just
Sure,
to squeak into the playoffs this year.
sure, absolutely. I don't really have much more to add. I mean, the Cubs took 2 out of 3 from the Blue Jays, which was really nice. Dropping 2 out of 3 to the Mets sucked, especially because all they had to do was not pitch to Pete Alonso, and they decided to pitch to Pete Alonso, and he hit 3 home runs in 3 games, pretty much single-handedly spearheaded their offense. It was super annoying. And then finally, the Cubs got smart and intentionally walked Luis Robert in like the fourth or fifth inning of last night's game, but then they pitched to him in the seventh and he hit a tank. Um, and so it's one of those things where the Cubs have to realize with these really trash, sucky teams, there's only one guy you got to watch out for. Don't pitch to them. And in the past 2 series, in 2 out of the past 3 series, they've done a really poor job of that. And so I'm hoping that with this upcoming series with the Royals, they don't pitch to Bobby Witt Jr., since he's quite literally the only guy that can hurt you. When they play the Tigers, don't pitch to Spencer Torkelson, because he is, the Tigers have Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson, Kerry Carpenter. Don't pitch to Spencer Torkelson. He's got more. He would be the home run leader on the Cubs, Dennis. The home run leader on the Cubs would be Spencer Torkelson.
Wow.
So don't
Wow.
pitch to Spencer Torkelson in the Tigers series. And when it comes to the Pirates, don't give Brian Reynolds anything good to hit either. If you do that, there's no reason why they can't come out of these next, 3-game series and win, I don't know, 6, 7 out of 9. That's what I'm looking for. There should be a sweep of either the Royals or Tigers and 2 out of 3 from Pittsburgh, and they should find themselves in first place. That's the way I'm looking at it. We'll see if that's the way it shakes out. But yeah, 2 weeks from now, we'll make for a very interesting episode, Dennis. Very interesting.
It will. It will. Everybody, make sure to tune in then. Derek, I mean, do you have anything specific you want to say about the Cubs, or are you good?
Um, Marcus Stroman fracturing rib cartilage sucks. That is going to be an issue.
Derek, we have a solo shot from the Los Angeles Dodgers in the bottom of the 8th inning. It's 1-0 LA.
Let's go. Who was
It
it?
was Austin Barnes. Austin Barnes.
Austin Barnes filling in for Will Smith today hits a tank. How about it? How about it, Dennis?
Correct.
Massive, massive news. That'll be a game.
Drop them all in the bottom of the 8th. There we go.
That'll be a game Dennis is going to follow through the rest of the podcast, so the podcast will
That's
get our
correct.
live reactions to whether or not the Cubs and Reds will move up a half game on the Brewers or not. Here's hoping they do. But yeah, I was just saying that Marcus Stroman fracturing right rib cartilage in his bullpen session
Stuff.
before returning to the rotation is a bit sucky. Granted, I think in like his last 10 starts he had an 8 ERA or something. So it remains to be seen how much of an impact that's going to cause on the rotation. The problem is when Marcus Stroman is really good, he's really good. And missing out on those opportunities are going to stink if we're having to throw out, not to name names, but Drew Smyly, Hayden Wesneski, Caleb Killian to eat a lot of innings. That scares me. Quite a large amount, Dennis. That scares me. You can rely on Justin Steele more often than not to give you a good outing. Javier Assad has been awesome, working out of. He started in the pen, and now he was sort of like a failed rotation guy, moved to the pen, proved to be useful in carrying 2 innings, 3 innings. And the past 2 outings, he's turned in 2 6-inning quality starts, so you can't really complain much about that. But then outside of that, Jameson Taillon, absolute wild card. He might go 7 innings, 1 run, or he might go 3 innings, 8 runs. You never know with that guy. Extremely scary. And then it's a matter of, is Kyle Hendricks going to serve up changeups over the middle of the plate, which he does far too often for my liking. So, the Cubs starter ERA since the All-Star break, I think is like 26th in the league. It's in like the 5.4 ERA range. Not very good. Sort of been treading water thus far, but if you can beat the bad teams, it won't particularly matter as long as you can tread water against the good teams, which they have. 2 out of 3 from Atlanta, 2 out of 3 from Toronto. You can't really complain too much about that. So we'll see. We'll see how the starting pitching looks down the stretch, because the bullpen has been really good, Dennis. The bullpen has been really good. Adbert Alzolay locking it down in the ninth, similar to Alexis Diaz. Um, so we'll see, but I feel good. As long as you score more runs than the other team, it doesn't matter. If they score 12, score
That's
13.
really all it comes down to.
You know what I mean? If they
Yep.
score 12 runs, just score 13 runs. It's not that hard. It's not that hard.
I was looking at picking up Jameson Taillon, Derek, and I was like, oh my gosh, Derek's gonna have a cow if I did that, but I just couldn't do it. It's too inconsistent. It's exactly what you
Correct.
said. I was looking at the numbers, and one night earned in 3 innings, and the next night it's 2 quality starts in a row. You just can't chance that though.
Correct. Correct. Dennis, Dodgers threatening a little bit extra. Mookie has singled following Austin Barnes' home run, Freddie Freeman in a 1-1 count. Need it bad.
Yeah, Derek, I was wondering if they were going to rule. I mean, it should be a base hit, but I was wondering if they were going to rule it an error because it does hit off of whoever's playing third for Milwaukee tonight. It hits off his glove, but it was a shot. So single for Mookie.
104 mile
And
per
now
hours
Freddie at the
off.
plate.
I
Yeah,
know that the scoring, the official scores have been a little more lenient this year. Oh, come on, Dennis, come on. That pitch isn't even close. It's not even
yeah, that's bull.
close. Should be
That's
three
bull.
one. Um,
I'm about to see it. The game cast is a little ahead of the broadcast, but
gotcha.
yeah, that's a ball. That's definitely a ball. Come on.
Oh, and I'm just gonna spoil this one for you too, Dennis. Look at that pitch. That's ball four right there. Not
Ball in the dirt.
not even remotely close. Should be ball four. Uh, stop punishing Freddy for having a great eye. But anyway, um, what were you talking about? Oh, you were talking about the single that they ruled for Mookie. I was
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
saying
yeah.
that it seems the official scores have been a little more relaxed now that all of the Statcast data is available. So pretty much hard balls that are being hit at like 103, 104, 105 miles per hour that really in essence should be hit and the fielder just sort of gets a glove on it. They've been ruling those a lot of hits more often, and Mookie hit that ball
Yeah.
almost 105 miles per hour off the bat. So it's hard to give a guy an error for that one.
Yeah, which I like, and I completely agree. It's just that I've always heard some argument, it hits the glove,
Correct.
that's a play you got to make. But when it's 105, like, come on, you got to give a man a break. And it wasn't right at him either. He was moving to his left. So, we got a ground out from Freddie, but Mookie moves up to second.
You
So
see where that ball is, Dennis?
out of the zone.
You see where that ball is? Right here?
Yeah,
The
there it
only
is. There it
reason
is. There
he
it is.
the only reason he swung at that pitch, Dennis, is because it was called a strike the last time. That's how an
Goes
umpire
strike
can
two.
single-handedly alter the entire course of an at bat with one garbage call. Um,
Completely agree. Completely agree.
are you a robo umps guy, Dennis?
I'm not. Even though I agree with that statement that you just made, I'm typically not. And the reason is because part of the fun of a baseball game is me getting ticked off at the umpire.
What I want to see is what they've been doing in the minor leagues, where you get to challenge a bad call during an at bat. That's what I'd like to see. When a guy is so sure during an at bat that the ump completely missed a call, and they say, "Yo, review that," and then the ump gets the, you know, baller strike call in his ear, and then you can basically challenge a pitch call. Um, and from what I saw in the minor leagues, it's like 2-3 second process. It doesn't take hardly any time at all. So that's what I would like to see implemented is hitters being given an opportunity to challenge egregiously bad strike calls like that one. I don't know how if
Okay,
you've
I
seen
mean,
that.
I like that, and I haven't paid too much attention to it. But what prevents? Is there a limit? Because like,
There's
what
some sort
prevents
of
from
limit.
just challenging every call?
There's some sort of let me see if I can find it.
Because then in essence it just is robo umps with the dude standing back there.
Correct. Um, Here we go. In the challenge system, the home plate umpire calls balls and strikes in the traditional manner, but teams can appeal to the Hawkeye Robo Ump on certain calls they deem to be correct. Each club starts the game with 3 ball strike challenges. If you get a call correct, you retain your challenge. If you get it incorrect, you lose the challenge. And challenges may only be made by the batter, the catcher, or the pitcher with no help from the dugout, and challenges must be made immediately following the umpire's call. That way
I love it.
you can't get any help
I
from
love it.
your dugout. So yeah, I think that's a perfect system.
Yeah, you can't have somebody get watching back there, how they do for other reviews, which I understand the point of that. The manager with his hand out, hold on, are we going to challenge it or not? Like that for a ball strike, that's ridiculous. But when a batter is very convinced, yeah, no,
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I think that makes sense and limiting it to three, but if you're right, you get to retain those. I mean, I think that it makes perfect sense.
Especially when you got a bozo like Angel Hernandez missing pitches straight down the middle. You're a pitcher who gets screwed because Angel Hernandez is blind, and you're like, that should be a strike, review that. And sure enough, Angel Hernandez has got called a strike because he's a dumb idiot. But yeah, I think that's a challenge. They're testing it out this year in AAA. Hopefully, I'd like to see that being brought to the majors because I too am mostly a fan of the human element of the game. Just not when calls are so egregiously bad that it completely borderline ruins the integrity of the game with how poorly some balls and strikes are called at times. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that ultimately that's what's led to the replay era in general and the challenge era in general is that, you know, it's excluded balls and
Jim
strikes to this
Joyce
point because they're
missing
more
Armando Galarraga's very obvious perfect game at first base pretty much single-handedly brought the replay system into effect.
correct. And when things like that have such a big impact on the outcome of the game that are so clearly wrong, which I mean,
It
I
happens.
I don't entirely blame umpires in those situations because it happens. I mean, they're human. Replay offers you the ability to do something that you can't do with the human eye at times.
Correct.
Um, and I think that they should be allowed to correct those mistakes, and they are to this point with everything except balls and strikes. So, yeah, I don't have a problem expanding that. I just, I also appreciate the human element of the game to an extent, especially when it has a little less of an actual impact. But I do think that players should be able to have an opportunity to change things that are egregiously wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Dennis Priest, the NFL is back. Dennis, football is back. The NFL is back. Every team has played a preseason game thus far. Joint practices, fights breaking out. The intensity is high, the emotions are high, the T levels are high, Dennis. Football truly back. I watched a little bit of the Lions preseason game. They won, unsurprisingly, because they're going to win the division this year. Beat the New York Giants because they are arse. Nebraska Cornhuskers legend Adrian Martinez, Dennis. Adrian Martinez
Yes,
leading
Adrian Martinez.
leading the game-winning drive for the Lions. Uh, Dude should really consider converting into a running back, maybe a Taysom Hill type role, because he really can't throw the ball that well. But he was very effective using his legs. Like I said, led the Lions down the field. Nate Sudfeld on the hottest of hot seats currently because he was absolutely dreadful in the preseason game. Literally, I'm sure you remember, Dennis, my Snapchat message to the group. Nate Nate Sudfeld throws an interception with a clean pocket. Pathetic. I believe that was pretty close to what I said. He ended up having another interception. It was the first snap of the preseason game. First snap of the year of competitive football for the Lions, and he threw an interception that was not even close. So, Nate Sudfeld on the hot seat, especially with the Lions signing Teddy Bridgewater, which gives them probably
Correct.
the best backup in the league, if I'd have to say. Certainly a guy that could probably win you a football game if Jared Goff, knock on wood, were to go down. Um, but yeah, they looked all right. The Lions defensive rookies really impressed. Jack Campbell, Brian Branch looked really good. Offensively, Sam Laporta left some out there on the field to be desired. Jameson Williams, unfortunately, uh, I think he only had like 2 catches on 7 targets, some of them catchable, some of them not. Had a really nice 2 point conversion, one handed snag, but now he's pulled his hamstring and we may not see him the rest of the preseason, which is really tough because he's not going to get any in game action until week 9 due to his gambling suspension. And then it's highly unlikely, at least from what I saw from Dan Campbell, that we're going to see any of the starters this week. Hopefully, he does play them at some point because I am a very strong proponent of you need to play your starters in the preseason. Um, and if the Kansas City Chiefs can do it, I think the Detroit Lions can do it, play their starters in the preseason. But I digress. But yeah, still obviously a lot of work to be done. But as we're what, 19, 20 days from Thursday night, Detroit at Arrowhead. It's hard not to be excited, Dennis. I don't know how much you got to watch of your Bengals, but I know they made Jordan Love look a little too good for my liking.
Yeah, no, they definitely did. The Cincinnati Bengals, I mean, it's the preseason. I don't do too much analysis. I don't dig into it too deep, but they did make Jordan Love look good. They made Sean Clifford look good for all crying out loud. Um,
It was the
Offense was
scrubs. It
nothing
was
to
the
write home about.
scrubs.
It was the scrubs. Yeah, I mean nobody was out there. I mean our leading rusher was somebody who I'd actually like to see get some more action. That would be Chris Evans, Derek, and then we did see a little bit out of Chase Brown, the rookie we drafted out of Illinois, and he looked pretty dynamic, which is exciting. Um, not a lot on the receiving side of things. I mean, from a QB perspective, obviously no Joe Burrow completely healthy. Wouldn't have been out there, but expect them to be. The defense was modest. We did have a pick six from I cannot actually remember his name. It was not somebody who I think it was an undrafted free agent. I don't think it was anybody who's been with the team before. Um, but I mean that was cool to see. Yeah, overall, I'm not really too worried. But we did take the loss to the Green Bay Packers, and then tomorrow night with the Atlanta Falcons will be the second preseason of the year.
It was Tyson Anderson.
Tyson
Tyson
Anderson,
Anderson.
that's right. That's right. Yes, correct.
Unfortunately, that interception was off of Sean Clifford and not Jordan Love, so I'm a little disappointed with that.
Yes, it was off. It was just point blank.
Yeah, so you'll get the Falcons tomorrow night in Atlanta. The Lions
Dirk,
don't.
we're 1 out away, by the way.
I did see that. I'm currently tracking it, but Evan Phillips, as Bobby would call, a failure to locate currently going
Oh no,
on.
not even close on that one. Are we? What are we doing, Evan? Oh my
Correct.
gosh.
And he walked him, which leaves
Yep.
0 for 3 with 3 Ks. Willie Adamas, Dennis. Surely, 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 surely. Evan Phillips will not give up a 2-run bomb to Willie Adamas. Surely.
I mean, please. I mean, oh my gosh, Willie Adamas could be helping out Nathan big time. Or I'm sorry, Wyatt. Wyatt.
Wyatt,
Wyatt
yeah.
rostering Willie Adamas.
Yeah.
Yes, my bad.
Oh no, still a failure to locate. 5 straight balls, Dennis. We're in
This
dire
is just
straits.
not good.
Dire straits.
Not good. Edit together.
Dennis, here's a tip for MLB
0 for
TV.
3 with 3 strikeouts.
Correct. A tip for MLB TV, Dennis. The broadcast does not load to the current spot in the game. So you'll see at like the bottom left, you can move forward 10 seconds. If you hit that button twice, you'll actually move up 20 seconds because for whatever reason, the stream starts
No
20
way.
seconds behind. And so every time you load a stream, you have to hit that button twice so that it gets you more caught up to speed.
That's ridiculous. What the heck are we doing, MLB TV?
Yeah. Yeah, I
I mean,
it's a feature that I despise. And it's almost incapable to use on mobile because even though you press it to move forward 10 seconds, it doesn't move forward 10 seconds. But at least on desktop versions, it'll move forward 20 seconds when you press it twice. So there's a little key for you, Dennis, because I bet now your count is 2-1 instead of being a full pitch and a half behind me.
it is 2-1. It is
Yeah.
indeed. Wow. I mean,
So yeah, the more you know.
hint of the day out there for all you MLB fans.
Yep.
Yeah, the more you know, absolutely.
The more
Man,
you
I'm just
know.
really tuned into this Willie Adames at bat. Never thought I'd say that, but
Listen, I'm locked in with you,
2-2.
Dennis. I'm locked in with you. This is
I
great.
mean, and that's the thing.
Go ahead.
Just to flip back to baseball real quick, that's the thing that I'm just really loving right now at this time of year. And yeah, I mean, obviously football's coming back. Very excited for that. But to have meaningful baseball on every single night with somebody, whether it's the Brewers, whether it's the Marlins right now, even the Phillies and Giants are
Diamondbacks.
intriguing box scores to keep up with. Obviously, the Cubs, outside of the Cincinnati Reds, to be able to watch these teams and root across the gases is just been really fun.
Correct.
That was a failure to locate
Not even
and a
close.
stolen base.
Dennis, we can't be walking Willie Adamas. We can't be walking.
I mean, we got a 3-2 count though, Derek. We got a dangerous count here. They stand and applaud in LA, and we got a foul ball.
I mean, Dennis, you just gotta blow the sinker by him. Blow the sinker by him up and in. There's no way he catches up to it.
I mean, Derek, could Willie Adamas pull classic Javi Baez here and swing at something in the dirt?
Unlikely because Willie Adamas actually walks a crap ton.
He does. He does. That's one of the only reasons I was going to roster him in fantasy baseball. And he struck him out swinging. Let's go.
Woo!
Struck him out. The slider.
I know, just as I said, there was a low likelihood that he would swing at a Javi Baez type pitch. At least on my screen. Somewhat of a Javi Baez type pitch. I don't know how it looked live, but was it particularly close?
A little bit. A little bit. It was a really good pitch from Evan. I'll tell you that. He snapped it off. It didn't end up in the dirt or anything crazy like that, but it was a good pitch and definitely had him fooled. Nice. So that'll bring us to 2 games.
Correct. At least from that trajectory, it looked like the ball started on the plate at least and then fell off the plate.
It started on the plate.
Whereas Javi Baez will swing at a ball that starts off the plate and finishes even further off the plate.
And finishes
just dreadful.
Behind the catcher into the net. Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
Just brutal. But yeah, Dennis, we won't get too deep into it, just because we still have another week of preseason left to cover the NFL in a little more depth when Bob comes back. Maybe we'll bring back the tier list that we did last year, because that was a pretty fun episode when the 3 of us made our tier lists for each conference to see how we would see it shake out. We should bring that back again. But just off the top of your head, who do you see being the Bengals' biggest competition in the AFC, and why is it the New York Jets?
I think with the New York Jets, I understand the hype. I'm in on the hype to some extent. I don't think I can say that they're the biggest competition in the AFC until I see it. Maybe when we're sitting here week 6, week 7, and they're, I don't know, 5-1, then I'm buying in a bit. I understand the experience and just knowledge and talent that Aaron Rodgers brings to the table. I'm a big Dalvin Cook fan. That was a great signing for them to pick up. Obviously, Sauce Gardner and the other young rookies from last year that they have on that roster are really exciting. But at the end of the day, it's still the Kansas City Chiefs. Until anything else is proven, either by the Chiefs or by another team in the AFC, there's no reason for me to say anybody else other than the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. Maybe one of these years Buffalo will live up to the hype, huh?
Yeah, no, I mean, I kind of like Buffalo. I mean, not as a rival, but if the Bengals were bad, I think Buffalo would be a team that I would root for. They just have exciting players, and I'm just a bit of a fan in that regard. But maybe someday, yeah, maybe someday. I mean, now they've got some competition in the
Correct.
AFC East, though. They can't just walk over people this year.
Correct. Yeah, I think I would agree with you. It's still the Kansas City Chiefs until someone proves otherwise. I will say this, though, Dennis. I have gone my entire life despising Aaron Rodgers. Yet there's a part of me that sort of wants to see him win just to really rub it in Packers fans' faces. I don't know what it is, but just as like his final FU to Green Bay, where he held them hostage for years and then never won anything since that Super Bowl back in like the early 2010s. Um, just for Aaron Rodgers to go out on top and say screw you Green Bay. I went ring chasing with the Jets and it paid off. I don't know, I almost like now that he's not with the Packers, I actually don't care whether Aaron Rodgers has success anymore. I'd be interested to see how Bob feels about that. But now that he's out of my division, I don't know. I just find it hard to really care whether he does good or bad. Um, and yeah, it's very
I've
conflicting, very conflicting.
I've I felt that exact same way, and maybe you do too with this particular guy. And I'm sure there's been several people, but the first name that popped into my head was Albert Pujols. I mean, terrorized the Cincinnati Reds, probably terrorized the Chicago Cubs. At least probably felt that way for years. And then he leaves the whole league and goes out to LA, and I'm like, I don't dislike the guy. It was just the fact that he terrorized us for so long that
Right?
was so painful.
Yeah, yeah. Very. That's a very good cross-sport analogy, Dennis. I like that a lot because I too had no problems with Albert Pujols when he went to waste the rest of his career away in LA. Had no problem with it. And even if he would have won, I don't think I would have had a problem with it still. So yeah, great
No, I
analogy
wouldn't.
there. Great analogy there. What about the NFC, Dennis? Who do you see being the top dog or two in the NFC?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of hype around the Detroit Lions. I'll get your thoughts in a second, but the NFC is relatively up for grabs. It feels like. I mean, there's just really no. I mean, outside of the Philadelphia Eagles, Derek, and I think that you probably have to say that the reigning NFC champions who have seemingly had another good draft and bringing back a lot of the same pieces that they had a year ago. I think you have to put them as the favorite. I would imagine. I don't know what the sports books say, but that's my gut tells me that it should be the Philadelphia Eagles. Outside of that, I mean, the NFC North, as you know, is very up for grabs. A lot of young, not a lot of recent success. The Minnesota Vikings, no more Dalvin Cook. So we'll see how Alexander Madison steps into that role. The Lions, obviously, a lot of hype. Dan Campbell leading guys back again another season. Justin Fields, we don't know exactly what's going to go on there, and then Green Bay, no Aaron Rodgers. Um, I man, Philadelphia Eagles, the NFC South is going to be pretty tough too,
Might
with
be
no
the
more
worst division in
uh,
football. Might be the
Tampa.
worst division in
Uh,
football.
the NFC might have two of the worst divisions in football.
I,
I'm sad. Well, the AFC South, the AFC South.
I mean, even the AFC South. Yeah,
Well, I'm
yeah,
I'm okay. Actually, on that note, I'm kind of hyped about Jacksonville. I didn't
yeah.
get to mention that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm low key hyped about Jacksonville. I know that there's a lot of hype on Jacksonville, but my expecting to take another step this year with
Sure.
Trevor Lawrence and I mean maybe it's a little foolish, but don't forget about Calvin Ridley. There,
Mm-hmm.
Calvin Ridley finally making his return. Could it be a too long situation? Been off the field for too long, perhaps. But last time we saw Calvin Ridley playing football, he was a very very talented and very very good football player.
Yeah.
And I think adding that into what that offense was doing last year is good for them. Derek, who else do you got in the NFC? I'm struggling here. I mean, I just don't think anybody else has a roster that I'm scared
San Francisco. That's the only
of.
other team. Dennis, I know you shake
I
your head, but San Francisco, year in, year out, just gets it done. George
I know they
Kittle,
do, but
Debo Samuel, one of the better offensive lines in the NFL, a highly, highly, highly underrated defense. What will be interesting to see is how the loss of D'Amico Ryans to now coach the Houston Texans affects their defense. Because D'Amico ran a really tight ship in San Francisco with that defense, had them firing on all cylinders at all times. So that'll be the interesting thing for me. In terms of the quarterback play, Brock Purdy clearly showed last year that he can play football at a decent enough level to get them to the NFC Championship game. I don't remember what his timeline is, if he'll be ready for week one or not. But what's really the big story in San Francisco, Dennis, is Trey Lance. The dude has less career pass attempts in the past 4 years than Sam Howard had at UNC last year. It's like under 500 completions that or 500 pass attempts that he has thrown at any level, college or professional, in like the past 4 years. Because, I think he only played one season at North Dakota State, because he didn't play the
North Dakota
COVID
State. Yep.
year. He didn't play the COVID year. And then his draft year didn't play much because they had Jimmy G. And then last year was supposed to be the guy, tore his ACL, and missed the rest of that year. So the man just has not played a ton of competitive football over the past 3 years, and it's really hard to track where his development will be this year. Um, so I think that's probably the biggest development in San Francisco. But you're right, Dennis. The NFC is pretty wide open outside of that. Who knows what Seattle will look like? They were a feel-good story last year with Geno leading the charge for the Seahawks in the wake of Russell Wilson's departure. The Cardinals are going to be bad. The Rams, we'll see how healthy Matt Stafford is. But they were still pretty bad last year, even with him. So that remains to be seen. How that'll shake up. The NFC South, like we mentioned, will be the worst division in football, probably. Uh, my guess is the team that wins that division will be 9-8, maybe 10-7, maybe, but likely 9-8, if not a sub 500 division winner. Um, it'll probably be New Orleans that pulls that off. Derek Carr, maybe he's the guy that can sort of elevate them, so they could be like a dark horse team, perhaps. But also, Derek Carr has never had like any long-term sustained success in his career thus far. I don't know what you think about that.
No, yeah, you're right. They are the betting favorite. I'm looking at it right now just because I was curious what the books are saying. But they are the seventh favorite in the NFC as a whole. Going to be a pretty weak division. Any top five. See if you can get the top five. A couple are obvious.
Who are the top five favorites to come out of the NFC?
To come out of the NFC, yes.
So Philadelphia 1,
Yep. Philadelphia won.
San Francisco 2,
San Francisco's two.
Dallas 3.
Dallas three.
Hmm. Do they think that Detroit will be better than Seattle? I'm going to say Detroit at 4. Come on.
Four plus 800.
Did you say.
Detroit Football Lions.
Okay, sweet. You lagged a little bit, so I didn't know for sure. But Detroit at 4. Okay, okay, okay.
Yep.
It's either Seattle or Minnesota at 5 and 6. I'm not sure which way it goes though. Is my guess. I'm gonna say final answer. Minnesota 5, Seattle 6.
That's correct.
Ooh,
That's exactly correct in that order. And then New Orleans at seven. Yeah, that's exactly right.
let's go. And then what? The Giants at 8? Or are
Um,
they high enough on the Packers still? Or would it be the Rams? Yeah, I actually don't know. Once you get past that top 7, it's basically a crapshoot who could be 8 through 14, 16.
sorry, you lagged a second.
Oh, who was number 8?
Eight was the Packers.
Okay.
Eight was the Packers. Nine's the Giants. And then it goes Falcons, Bears, Commanders, Panthers, Rams, Bucks, Cardinals.
Wow, they think the Rams are going to be that
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah, they have the Rams at the very bottom at plus 3,500 right now.
Wow.
You can get them on FanDuel.
Wow. All worth it for a chip, though. All worth it for a chip. No question. What about the.
Derek, is it disrespectful? AFC.
Yeah,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna. Yeah, we'll do the AFC, but I want you to ask your question first. What would be disrespectful?
Well, it was about the AFC, so let's just
Oh, gotcha, gotcha, gotcha,
go
gotcha.
ahead and do it.
All right, number one, gotta be the Chiefs. If it's not, I'm gonna take wherever the Chiefs are.
That part's not disrespectful.
Is number one the Chiefs?
Yes, number one's the Chiefs.
I have a feeling the Bengals are behind the Jets or something. That's my gut feeling for the disrespect. Are the Bengals behind the Jets?
That's not. Nope. The Bengals are not behind the Jets.
Okay, thank goodness. Are does it go Bills 2, Bengals 3, Jets 4?
It goes Bills 2, Bengals 3, and not the Jets are not 4.
Oh,
But
really?
uh, yeah, yeah. But yes, that's what I was alluding to, and I wasn't necessarily trying to say that it was disrespect, just in light about the Bengals and the Buffalo. Is it disrespect that Buffalo is ahead of Cincinnati?
I'd say a little bit. I think Cincinnati's proved their worth on the field, that they should probably be number two until proven otherwise.
Thank you.
The only thing, the only thing that I could possibly think of is the odds makers taking into account Joe Burrow's current injury status. That is the only thing I
Yeah,
could possibly think of. So if anyone is super high on the Cincinnati Bengals, now would be a great time to buy um, before their stock gets any higher. That would be my personal opinion.
that's exactly correct. I couldn't agree with that more. The New York Jets are not 4 though.
Are they at least five?
They are 5.
Okay,
The New
okay,
York Jets
okay,
are
okay.
5.
This is, you see, Dennis. This is where it gets interesting because the Raiders are going to be fat stained this year. Fat stained this year. Surely the odds makers are not high on Jimmy Garoppolo led Raiders. Um, at least not as high as number four. So who would I think would be number four? Nah, it can't be Baltimore.
Baltimore.
It is Baltimore.
The Baltimore
Wow,
Ravens. Yeah,
what a
at plus
guess!
900.
What a
Yeah.
guess!
Yeah, no, I don't get that one either at all. Personally,
Yeah, it's the Ravens, Dennis. Come on, it's the Ravens. Lamar,
I
fully
know.
healthy Lamar makes them a threat, whether you want to admit it or not.
I mean, when's the last time we saw fully healthy Lamar?
A long time
Like,
ago.
I know that's not baked into the odds, but like, come on. Like, I mean,
He's healthy now, though, Dennis.
that's a theory that just never plays out.
You know, recent results would agree with you, Dennis. Number five, Dennis, was the New York Jets. Number six, this is where it gets tricky. It could be Jacksonville, and it could be Miami. And I'm not sure which of the two it is. Is it those two in some order?
It is neither of them. It is neither of
Neither
them.
of them.
And another move of absolute disrespect by the odds makers, in my humble opinion.
This is number six, right?
Well, technically, one of them is actually tied for number 6 with another team.
Okay, 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 okay.
I just now noticed that they're behind them in the list, but they have plus 1100 odds. Both of them do.
I'm gonna say they've got Miami at six. Is one of the teams at six.
Miami is one of the two teams at 6. Yeah,
Who would they be tied
yeah.
with? Certainly not New England. Certainly not the Texans. Certainly not the Colts. Certainly not the Raiders. Certainly not the Broncos. And if it's not Jacksonville, and it's not Cleveland, surely it's not Pittsburgh. So is it Tennessee?
It's not Tennessee.
It's not Tennessee. Thank goodness, because that would have been an absolute joke. Who would be tied for sixth? Oakland?
No, not Vegas.
Oh, Vegas? Yeah. Vegas, Oakland, blah, blah, blah. The Chargers! That's who I was forgetting. It's gotta be the
The
Chargers.
Chargers.
That's who it is. Yes,
It's
yes.
the Los Angeles Chargers, which
The team that lets me down year in and year out, the Chargers.
Yeah, because they're
Yes.
not any good.
Are the Jags at least behind them then?
Yes, the Jags
Okay.
are behind them.
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, and then 9 through 16 is basically, I don't know, 9, 10, 11
It's
are
everybody else.
yeah, 9, 10, 11 are basically the same tier. 12 through 14 are basically the same tier. Where do they, just out of curiosity, have Denver and Vegas?
Sorry, let me pull it right back. The Vegas was towards the very bottom, just ahead of like Houston.
Okay, as they should be with the trash defense they have.
Let's see, here it is. Um, Chargers, Dolphins, Jaguars. Okay, so yeah, and then it's Browns, Steelers,
Wow.
Broncos, and then Titans, Patriots, Raiders, Colts, Texans.
Wow.
So yeah, they have Vegas at 14 and they have Denver at 11.
Okay. No love to the Patriots for picking up Zeke Elliott, I see. Not a needle mover.
No love to the Patriots. No love to the Patriots.
Yeah, not Zeke Elliott, probably not quite the needle mover that perhaps some people in the New England fan base may think it was.
Last question for you, Derek, and then at least I'm good on the NFL side of things and we can move forward.
Sure.
We talked about anybody that we are expecting good things out of this year. Is there anybody who perhaps is one of these teams that has lower better odds than win their respective conference this year that you don't think is really going to do so?
Say that again. You lagged out right in the middle of the question.
No, 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 no. My bad, my bad. Um, Essentially, I'm asking, is there a team that is expected to play well this season and go far that you just don't buy?
So who do I have as a overhyped underperformer team?
Overhyped. Yes.
Hmm. The easy answer is the Cowboys. That's the
Yeah,
easy answer.
I was just about.
I mean, year
It
in
is
and
the easy
year
answer.
out, year in and year out, until Dak Prescott can stop throwing interceptions, and as long as Jerry Jones is there, I don't see the Cowboys ever being successful again. Not with Fat Mike McCarthy calling the shots. The one thing the Cowboys have going for them, Dan Quinn, exceptional defensive coordinator. Um, and so their defense is going to bring it. So yeah, easy answer is the Cowboys. Maybe the more so the easy answer is the Cowboys. The logical answer, if you want to take past history, past success into account, even though you shouldn't, is the Lions. Uh, but my personal decision will be from the NFC. Where'd you say the Packers were again?
They're like
8? Were they 8?
7 or 8,
Yeah.
7 or 8.
So my answer is going to be the Packers. I think they finish in the bottom 4 teams in the NFC. It'll be like Chicago, Green Bay, Arizona, and mm, Washington. Those will probably be my
Yeah.
bottom 4 teams. I don't think Green Bay is really going to be challenging for a playoff spot down the stretch. And then the AFC, the easy answer is the Jets. The logical answer is the Chargers.
Yep.
And my
Yep.
decision will be I'm going to say Miami. I don't know why.
Okay.
I'm not a Tua believer. Um, I think he's got it relatively easy with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle on the outside. I'm pretty sure their defense is improved, but so is the rest of the division. Um, and so I could see Miami being the team that could end up being the disappointment this year. Um, because the AFC East is going to be tough. You've already got to deal with Buffalo. Now the Jets might actually be good. Um, and I just don't see three teams coming out of the same division. And if I had to put money on either the Jets or Dolphins to get out of the division, at this point I'd have to take the Jets because I know what Aaron Rodgers can do, and I believe in Aaron Rodgers significantly more than Tua. So yeah, I could, yeah, the Dolphins and the Packers. Those will be my two teams, and perhaps there's a little bit of bias against the Packers.
Yeah, no, I think that's completely fair. I don't disagree with anything you said. I would still take out of the AFC, and there's bias in this, but I would still take the Chargers. I think we've talked at length on this about my disdain for the Chargers. Um, and do something or prove it to me, I'm just not going to have any belief in them. But I see the argument for Miami. I mean, it is going to be improved division overall. It's going to be tougher, and given the choice between Miami or the Jets, there's a reason to say the New York Jets based on the roster that they've built. So I completely see that, and then I think in the NFC for me, I'll just be cliche and say the Cowboys because
Sure, because why
they're
not?
just going to disappoint.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
because
why
they're
not?
going to disappoint.
Yeah,
I mean, they're not going to disappoint me. They're going to make me happy, but they'll disappoint their fans.
correct, correct. Not really any significant NHL news, not really any significant NBA news that I've been tracking. Ennis Cantor spouting off on some stuff. If you haven't seen it, feel free to check out Twitter. It's not really my domain to get into, to be quite honest. So I think now's a great time as ever to transition into winners and losers of the week. Dennis, your winner of the week.
Yeah, man, I am so sad that Bobby is not here right now for this one, Derek. Peyton Thorne in your side, Thorne in my side, named this starting quarterback for the Auburn Tigers
Correct.
week one, Derek. I mean, that news came across the desk today. Unbelievable. The fall from grace from Michigan State now winning the QB battle in Auburn. Yeah, I mean, hats off, hats off. I was reading a brief article today about how he shows up every day, wants to be there, wants to succeed, and is playing his tail off. And I mean, I would love to get Bobby's comments, but that's my winner of the week.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get him next week. That's a good one, Dennis. That's a good one. The man who was forced out partly by the fan base, maybe even more so by the coaching staff, maybe enticed by the Auburn bag droppers. Who knows, Dennis? Who knows? But he's starting in the SEC, and you can't take away Peyton Thorne as SEC caliber starting quarterback. Remains to be seen how that affects Michigan State because they're going to be ours this year. Sorry, Bob. My winner of the week, fans of First Take, because Shannon Sharp, Dennis, Shannon Sharp is going to be appearing on First Take with Stephen A. Smith twice a week, baby. Twice a week, we're going to have Uncle Shay Shay going head to toe with Stephen A. Smith. I know Bob, if he's still watching this far, is pumping his fist.
He definitely is. He definitely is.
Because
No doubt.
just last week we were talking about. I'm pretty sure my loser of the week was Skip Bayless because he still hadn't found a replacement yet. Either that or I made him my winner because Richard Sherman was his replacement and
I
that
think
had
he
been
was the winner
announced.
because we knew that Richard Sherman was, yeah, I
Yeah,
remember that. Yep.
yeah. So big last 2 weeks for sports morning talk shows. Yeah,
No kidding.
Shannon Sharp gonna be appearing on First Take twice a week. Should be quality entertainment at the very least. Dennis, your loser.
My loser, this took me a little bit to come up with, to be perfectly honest. Struggled a bit on the loser side of things. And I don't know if you want to count it for this week, but, a premature loser, we'll say, would be none other than Derek Rezio, because, the Chicago Cubs are not going to be in first place of the NL Central in just under 2 weeks. I hate to say it. We already discussed the bet. I'm bringing it back to that. Don't make that face.
Bob,
So
Dennis, this is some weak
I just say it.
sauce. Dennis, this is some
I mean,
weak
hey,
sauce. This is some
this is.
weak sauce.
I mean, if you really want to spare me a loser, then feel free. But I spent some time on this, and this is what I came up with, and then you
Un-
gotta respect that.
Unbelievable, Dennis. I can't believe you've done this. Uh, my loser of the week: cream slash tan slash light colored pants and very hot and
Oh
humid,
no,
sweaty golf outings. Dennis, it was a tough look for the recent golf champion. I can only think of his last name right now. Enlighten me,
Lucas Glover.
Lucas Glover. That's what it is. Lucas Glover. I kept wanting to say Danny Glover. I was like, it's not Danny. Lucas Glover, Dennis, was battling. I mean, he was battling the
A lot
swamp
of things.
monster terribly, terribly. I mean, the cameras did him no favors by constantly focusing on the sweaty backseat of his pants. Just a tough look all around, but he won, Dennis, and at the end of the day, that's what he'll be remembered in the record books as.
That's exactly right, Derek. And we don't have to get into it here, but big debate going on in the golf world right now is Lucas Glover deserving of a Ryder Cup seat. And then the other debate is Justin Thomas deserving of a Ryder Cup seat? Probably not. But are you really going to break up the JT Spieth duo that has had so much success at the Ryder Cup and the camaraderie and chemistry? Although JT has had such a poor season, I, I don't know. I think it's going to be a tough decision um, as they come down the stretch, and that's going to be coming up here rather soon. I don't know when those decisions are final, but that's been a hot button topic in the golf world. Definitely not a good look for Lucas last week, though. I
I'm
think it's
just
rather soon
I'm just looking up Ryder Cup decision making
for
deadline.
Captain Zach Johnson. Zach Johnson, captain of the USA team this year.
September 3rd. September
Okay, yeah,
3rd.
so a couple weeks.
Uh, all U.S. players will have the opportunity to earn points. Blah 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 blah. The Sox at the conclusion of the FedEx Cup playoff on August 20th, the top 6 eligible players on the points list secure spots on the U.S. team. The remaining 6 slots will go to eligible players who are captain selections. So
Correct.
could we see Bryson DeChambeau, Dennis? Could we see Bryson DeChambeau? Could we
I mean, I
see
think we may
Brooks
have
Koepka?
mentioned it briefly last week. I can't remember, but Bryson coming off a live victory, his first of such stature.
And he
Um,
played incredibly well. Minus
he did.
58, is that what
He
it
did.
was?
No, he shot a 50. He had a 58, I
58,
think.
yeah, that's what I meant. Not a,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, 58 under would be incredible.
No,
Shot of 58.
that would be insane. No.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, he did have a 58 though. And yeah, no, he played really well, and then hats off to him for that. But yeah, some interesting decisions for Zach Johnson this year. I'm curious to see which way it goes. It kind of sounds like to me, and people have taken it both ways. Some of the comments I've heard is that he's going to take JT as one of his selections just to keep that together and kind of bank on him playing better in that format alongside Jordan. I I don't know. We'll see. Some people may argue, is that really correct then? Is that sort of an abuse of the captain selection to ignore people who have been playing better, such as Lucas Glover if he ends up being off the list? You know, it all
we'll
comes
see.
down to your philosophy on things.
Yeah, definitely. Dennis, your right bench baller of the week.
Right bench baller, I'm going with Nelson Velasquez. Last 6 games, 8 hits, 4 home runs for the Kansas City Royals, and only 0.5% rostered currently in ESPN fantasy leagues. Nelson Velasquez. Derek, his hat is still a Chicago Cubs hat. Can you enlighten me on Nelson Velasquez?
Nelson Velasquez was a guy on the Cubs 40-man roster who, let's be real, was facing a logjam in making the Cubs outfield. You weren't going to play him daily over Ian Happ. You weren't going to play him daily over Cody Bellinger. You weren't going to platoon him with Seiya Suzuki. You weren't going to platoon him with Mike Tauchman. So what we did is we traded Nelson to the Royals for Jose Cuas, who has been very effective for us coming out of the bullpen
Okay.
since we've acquired him. But I'm happy for him. I'm happy to see him hit a bunch of tanks in his limited MLB time. Here's just hoping it's not another Jorge Soler situation where we come to regret this down the line, and hopefully he
Yep.
doesn't single-handedly sink us in our upcoming three-game series, and I'll leave it at that.
There we go. Fair enough. Fair enough.
My right bench baller, Kerry Carpenter of the Detroit Tigers. Dude has been absolutely raking over the past 4 or 5 days. 423 batting average, 3 dongs, 4 RBI, 11 hits, 2 walks, and a 1.329 OPS. Dude's been a real jolt of electricity and a rather dull Tigers lineup outside of Torkelson and Riley Green. And wouldn't you believe it, Dennis? The Tigers are hot. The Tigers are hot.
No better time. No better time.
I mean, they hit four
The AL
home
Central, is
runs.
it still for grabs?
Dennis, as far as I'm aware, the AL Central is still very much up for grabs still.
I mean, I don't think anybody's pulling away with that division.
The Twins are currently up 4.5 on the Guardians with a record of 63 and 59. Dennis. 63 and 59. The Tigers currently sit 8 back, and with the way that division is, it would take a heck of a run for the Tigers to, make up that ground, but they're only 7 back in the loss column. So we'll see. We'll see. Uh,
You never know. You never know.
you never know. That is 100% correct. But yeah, right bench baller Kerry Carpenter. I can almost guarantee, Dennis, that would have been Bob's right bench baller. No question in my mind.
100%. 100% would have been. Yep, absolutely.
With that, let's see if I can pull up just quickly the garbage time takes your money from last week. It was Nationals versus Athletics. The over-under was set for 9, and it was the game where Paulie B. Paul Blackburn was on the mound. I believe the Nationals won that game rather handily, although Paulie B. did do his job. Yes, the Nationals won that game 8-2, so the Nationals and the over hit. I went 0 for 2, taking the Athletics and the under. Bob went 1 for 2, hitting the over, and Dennis, you went 1 for 2, taking the under. I am not prepared at this point to give us a game for this week.
I'm looking right now. I'm
Yeah,
looking
go
right
for
now.
it. Why not? Usually we just say
Let's
screw
see.
it and wait till next week, but you could go to a preseason game,
Well, we do.
Dennis.
I could. I could. We do have. I don't know if I really want to do that. We have the beginning of days at the front of ends. Other than that, could go Brewers Rangers if you want to go in the MLB world.
Sure, why not?
Hopefully the beginning of a sweep. Hopefully the beginning. Oh, it's Brandon Woodruff and Andrew Heaney. Yeah, let's do that.
That's a solid matchup.
Let's do yep, that's a solid matchup. Let's do Brandon Woodruff and Andrew Heaney.
All right, so that is game is being played in Texas. According to
That is in
Draft
Texas tomorrow.
According to DraftKings, I don't know if that's what you're looking at, but the over/under is set for 9, so that's the one we'll use.
Yep, that's what I
Uh,
see.
I'll start off since I went 0 for 2 last week. Um, let's take the Rangers, just because, I mean, Dennis, principle says we've got to take the Rangers. And I'll take the under. I think this will probably be a relatively low scoring game 4-2, 5-2. I don't know. The Rangers and the under seems right, Dennis. I don't know if you're feeling the same way.
It does. That's I can't be contrarian. That's exactly the play I was going to make at home and against a Brewers team who, as you pointed out earlier in this show, has had some fluke wins. Really, I mean, even though they've still stayed atop the NL Central, it's not necessarily been by dominance.
Correct.
And the Texas Rangers are a dominant team. I mean, obviously, having Brandon Woodruff on the mound does help the Brewers, but it also helps the under, which is why I'm going to take the under because this is a good starting pitching matchup. And coming off of what we saw tonight and the last few games, I think the Milwaukee Brewers have not necessarily been generating a ton of runs. I mean, losing tonight 1-0 to the Los Angeles factors combined. I'm going to under.
Yeah, good point. 4 combined runs over the course of that series. Haven't really scored many
Yeah, well,
runs since they started to
I know it wasn't
actually.
many, but four.
Yeah, they when you actually start to have to play good teams, your run production tends to go down. You can't be scoring 12 against the Rockies and 7
As
against
they,
the White Sox every single day, Dennis.
Derry, tell me they didn't get shut down by Lance Lynn.
No,
I mean,
Dennis, they got shut
no,
down by Lance Lynn. Dang it, they got shut down by Lance
that's
Lynn.
just tough scenes.
But yeah, that'll wrap it up for this week's show. I think we're a little close to the hour and a half mark, Dennis. I mean, we really know how to talk sports. What can we say when you go a whole week without chopping it up? That's just what
That's
happens.
right.
It's just what
You got to
happens.
chop it up every single week.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dennis. It's been a minute since you've had to rehearse the socials. Do you still remember them?
Oh man, this is tough. We've got at garbage time takes on Instagram, at garbage time takes on YouTube, and it is at garb time takes on X, as Bobby would say, aka for all of you fans out there, Twitter.
Correct. Attaboy,
Thank you,
Dennis.
character limits. That's the reason I remember that one now is
Yep.
because garb time takes the shorter
Correct.
one.
Correct. Yeah, as always, couldn't have said it better myself. We appreciate all the support. Thank you for watching, Bob. If you've made it this far, hope to see you next week. Uh, and yeah, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and we will hopefully see you next week, if not in the next episode. Until then, signing off at Garbage Time Takes. Thank you for watching. In 3.
Two.
Peace.
Peace.